the vibrant capital of Ghana, holds immense economic promise. Its bustling markets, burgeoning industries, and entrepreneurial spirit are the heartbeat of the nation's economy. Nonetheless, this potential is stifled by key mobility and accessibility challenges. Existing infrastructure strains under the weight of rapid urbanization and population growth. Workers spend precious hours stuck in traffic instead of contributing to the economy. In this context of uncontrolled motorization, the vulnerable suffer the most.
Say, with the traffic ma, a consu fuel, ya fuel. Two, and my only pediano, because when I see break so, what we be a working, and my own bread. And Kebia Buhona, as a so cultural. We are easy, why, oh, Nina Kahon, forcing the intimacy. Now, where the traffic miss, special over Casua here. Casua, how many hours let's say would you for her to Casua? Casua, why do you suffer 45 and I say, saying, and so Casua say, no, special, no, the 2 hours, 5, every day, 2 hours, 30 minutes. And they do to Casua. How?
Sakaka Sani Bar. And I feel you want more. Not about peace, send it down in one, castle it down in one qua. Nasadi one about peace, Sadi Asha bar peso, Nasadi Asha bar peso, Nani Nacho, Kuna can't get one. And to me, and your baby, I am fat.
Because one time, you let me come where a Michelle came, who said Kaba, and my many failing me, it's my son failing, my suit sharp Sakaba, let me join the call center. Me join at once, come between one championship no for yet.
Oh, the situation there, if I say that is good and I lie, it's not good at all. Sometimes people will be there finding car to go to their various places. They will not get car. Maybe the car will come, it will be full. Later on, like every time before they'll get car to their various places. That's the problem that we face for there.
The Ghana Urban Mobility and Accessibility Project, GUMAP, results from a process started in 2014. Wishing to broaden its support to the government of Ghana, the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, SECO, commissioned a scoping study with the objective of assessing the potential for intervention in Ghana in the field of urban mobility and accessibility. GUMAP stands out as a unique project in the transport sector. Its approach has been to look beyond the conventional infrastructure-focused transport projects, such as the building of roads, interchanges, bridges, amongst others, and to focus on all dimensions of institutional and capacity-building efforts, which supports the governance of urban mobility and traffic management, data collection, dissemination of best international practices, trainings, and technical assistance. Building on the 2014 scoping process, a feasibility study was then carried out in 2015, defining the main features of GUMAP. With the signing of the project grant agreement between the Government of Switzerland and Government of Ghana in December 2016, GUMAP began in full swing in January 2017.
Switzerland's State Secretariat for Economic Affairs is the center of excellence for all questions related to the economy. It also includes a pillar that we refer to as economic development cooperation. It is a way of strengthening our bilateral relations with partner countries, Ghana being one of them. We have several business lines in the economic development cooperation, one of them being urban mobility and infrastructure. GUMAP in Ghana was a first. So it really had to look into strengthening the capacities of the government institutions. In the case of Ghana, this is the Ministry for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development. The project did that through a series of studies, workshops with international and national consultants. It also conducted a first time ever household survey on mobility. That means how do people in Greater Accra behave when it comes to mobility and transportation. The project also established a collaboration on the level of universities. This was between the KNUST and the École Polytechnique in Lausanne, so that students will also have access to curricula teaching them on urban mobility and accessibility.
When you think of GUMAP and its legacy, there are a few important things that need to be mentioned. First, 10 years ago, there was a real shortage of data and studies about urban mobility in the Greater Accra metropolitan area, GAMA. Probably more than in most African capital cities. This shortage made it very difficult to analyze mobility problems and to design optimal solutions to these problems. It was one of GUMAP's main objectives to remedy this shortage. Second, there was also the prospect that the links with the international community in urban mobility would be cut, since the main Ghana urban transport project, financed by the World Bank and the French AFD, was being completed. So it was also a key objective of GUMAP to ensure that the links with the international practitioners be maintained. And third, let me emphasize that the institutional context was and remains quite unique. Indeed, Ghana has strongly promoted the decentralization of state responsibilities. More than in most countries in Africa, urban mobility is in Ghana the responsibility of local governments. This is a far-sighted policy. It's essential in the long term to foster efficient decision-making, but it requires strong institutional and financial capabilities at the local level. In addition, it makes it difficult to address issues which concern multiple jurisdictions, like the organization of public transport and the planning of the road network. So these are difficulties that remain to be addressed in GAMA. I think that everybody involved in the sector was highly conscious of these obstacles and welcomed GUMAP as a means to begin to address them. There was a lot of interest and contribution in the preparation of GUMAP. It's fair to say that this preparation was highly participatory and that the project design reflected the common view of key stakeholders, notably regarding capacity development, studies and data collection. So, since 2017, the implementation of GUMAP has followed the initial plan quite rigorously, in fact, and a lot of work has been done. The accomplishments have been many. A lot of data and analysis have been produced. A lot of potential improvement in public transport and traffic have been conceived. A lot of information on best practices in other middle-income countries have been disseminated. Some of the studies, like the household transport survey or the large-scale traffic data collection, provided a huge volume of information and will be essential to monitor developments in urban mobility in the future. But beyond this, GUMAP has helped practitioners develop their own knowledge and build shared views on action that need to be taken.
GUMAP's achievements were highlighted during the Urban Mobility Forum, which was held on July 2nd, 2024 at the project's closeout event. The forum served as an important platform to disseminate key findings from the project to various key political and technical profiles.
In every locality where there is a problem about mobility and accessibility, there is a district authority, i.e. Metropolitan Municipal Legislative Assembly, And so we are important, they are important, stakeholders are everybody, just to find a multifaceted solution to the problem.
At the time when the GUMAP came in, the transport department had just started working with very little capacity to handle the extended mandate. The mandate of the transport department extended beyond what we had under the UPTUs. But then capacities to handle the extended mandate was a bit lacking. So we saw GUMAP as very timely in terms of providing us with capacity to perform. What GUMAP did that was actually very instrumental was that the training was diverse. We had steady tours to other parts of the world to expose us to mobility issues. Topmost was mobility planning, public transport planning, among others. So we think that GUMAP came in very handy to address a lot of capacity gaps. We in TEMA, for instance, were very fortunate to have the freight studies conducted mainly within the Gamma. But you know, TEMA is the hub of freight. And so we saw the issue of freight to be very fundamental to our public transport environment. The relationship between the freight transport and the public transport in general, we think that the studies was actually very good for us to actually deploy. Before GUMAP came in, the indicators for assessing the assemblies were totally bereft of anything mobility. There was no mobility indicator. But then through the instrumentality of GUMAP, a few mobility indicators were actually inserted into the entire performance tool. And we think that that's very good.
I think GUMAP has come to lift up the level of technical training that public sector officials into transport or the built environment can receive. And that, I think, broadened our horizon on the level of technical issues to deal with, and also to look at what the needs are for the communities that we serve. An example, for instance, is an activity where we needed to look at the urban fabric within the CBD. Obviously, a lot of the traffic, especially work travels, came from dormitory areas around the Gamma area into the center of town. So with all the studies that have gone on within the CBD or with GUMAP, clearly we are identifying that we need to prioritize pedestrian traffic, for instance, for the CBD, make more places available for social and economic interaction than they are now. The household travel survey has been an activity that you normally do not find happening in the global south cities. Mostly you will find projects being supported with just limited data collection activities. But this is more to the scale of a census. And I think what this does is to also look at the need for transport with people living within Gamma beyond the periods when they are actually traveling. So I think there is something that it brings or adds to the process, which is the latent demand, that the demand that nobody sees. You don't see it by observing a queue from a terminal, but somebody who would want to travel and they have challenges. This is the opportunity for them to indicate what those challenges are. What that does for us is also to give us another perspective of what we could be doing to improve the system.
From the few assemblies that had the transport department set up, the kind of training that GUMAP provided has been really inspiring, bringing these few assemblies together, letting them understand the role of the Transport Department in executing the regulatory mandate of the MMDAs for public transport and its related activities. With all the resource persons, the kind of training that were put together, I believe we've been very much enlightened about how to go about with all these regulatory activities. So GUMAP has been very impactful. GAPTI has greatly benefited from GUMAP. But in my opinion, GAPTI's role as a coordinating body for the inter-MMDA Transport Department and GAPTI's role in coordinating the activities of the Transport Department within GAMA to set out the policies and the framework that is required for the Transport Departments and the bylaws to pass for the Transport Departments to be able to execute their mandate. We believe that GAPTI has not been given the needed leadership required. And GUMAP tried to bridge that, but we believe that there is more to be done.
Right from the beginning, some of us who are very interested in data for mobility planning and even urban planning requested that whatever data that should be generated from the project should be put on a platform and more like make it an open source database which other transport and urban planning professionals can access, even professionals in other spaces, and then also researchers can access to understand the dynamics of transportation. So right from the get-go, most of the data that were generated, the reports, were put into a digital storage, a cloud storage, where we're able to access the data. And from there, we have seen that there has been an incremental number of data that have been collected, right from data on routes, data on transport operators, data on fleets of vehicles for the transport operators. We have seen data on socioeconomic data, which is more like the census that was done, the household transport data survey, which have all yielded a great treasure trove of data, which apart from helping us to understand urban transportation, is going to be baseline data for future interventions in the transport space.
If you look at the GUMAP agenda, it is directed towards sustainable mobility in Accra, mobility and accessibility. This agenda cuts across several phases, be it food security, health, economic growth, infrastructure, city and urban population in terms of human settlements. Because if you look at the way forward, mobility and accessibility, all the phases that I have mentioned, nobody moves to a health center without transporting himself through a vehicle. So it cuts across. So through this particular project, though a statistician, I've been able to expand my horizon when it comes to not only collecting data, but the fact that we're able to integrate mobility and accessibility across all these facets.
This project had 3 components, I believe, and component 3 was on capacity building for the transport sector, which involved a collaboration between Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and we represented KNUST, and then Transport Lab and Trace Lab at the Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, or EPFL. Now, the 2 universities decided to come together to form a cooperation project, which we call the Cooperation for Urban Mobility and Transport, CUMT. And at this sub-project, we agreed and we set up first
and an MSc program. Originally, we were running a master's program which was in road and transport engineering, and we needed to deepen some aspects and introduce aspects in traffic modeling, intelligent transport systems, and then transport demand modeling. We identified that the Trace Lab at EPFL had competency in these areas. So working with the professors there, Nicolas and Michel Belle and the other team, we managed to revamp our master's program. We did so to include new courses, and these new courses have been run since almost 6, 7, 8 years. A number of students have gone through the program, and I must say that since we started, we built a capacity. At least 20 students participate in each of the courses every year. 20 master's students, and then we also have some PhD students. So on the average, 25 students sit each course every year, and we've done that for a couple of years.
To complement institutional strengthening and capacity building efforts, small-scale demonstrative projects are being implemented at 6 locations in the Greater Accra metropolitan area. These are Mambo Junction at Soweto in the Ga Central Municipal Assembly, Otublohum Obibini intersection in the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, Babayara Padmore intersection in the Tema Metropolitan Assembly, 3 Junction at Amasaman in the Ga West Municipal Assembly, Ogbojo New Market intersection in the La Nkwantanan Madina Assembly, Ashoman Alafia intersection in the Ga East Municipal Assembly.
So basically, we're looking at 2 key factors: pedestrian safety and then improving mobility at this particular junction to ensure that we don't have congestion. As we can see, sometimes we have the trotro drivers parking close to the junction. Then you have vehicles turning in. You have the large trucks also coming in. So the whole place is messy. And then there was a need to intervene to ensure that we have orderly flow of vehicles at the junction. And then we also ensure that we don't have any sort of accidents between pedestrians and the vehicles. Currently, we don't have anything separating the junction. We don't have any physical structure or any markings separating the junction. So vehicles want to turn left, and then they end up coming into the lane of vehicles coming from Aboko. We want to go to Ashoman. So it's envisaged that once the project is done, we'll have that orderly flow. Pedestrians will have places to actually cross the road, and the trotro drivers to also have designated places to park and then pick passengers and also offload passengers.
With the design phase now completed, the implementation of civil works is to commence shortly.
For urban roads, we have also been able to, for the third component, which is the investment measures, the knowledge that we have gained, we are going to do a hands-on activity by procuring contractors to be able to put down the measures that the traffic management measures on ground. And these 6 beneficiary assemblies are getting some interventions at junctions where after the projects you'll be seeing walkway improvements, you'll be seeing lane marking, overlay, you'll be seeing defined crossing points for people who move within that particular section of the area. So that one will enhance the area in terms of safety. And that's what we expect to see when the project or the works are done by the contractors.
So when you come to where I am, we had a junction improvement plan at 3 Junction. It's a very conflicting junction, but they are coming in with their policies, and then all the traffic stuff we have done there. That is what we seek to do, and it's one of the things they have done.
Linking theory and practice was critical for this project, and that is what resonates with me very well. The KNUST factor students graduated with urban tailor-made courses. It's a unique thing that had happened, and we are going to pursue it to ensure that there's a partnership between academia and practice to ensure that the issues of urban mobility and in general urban development are dealt with this current or modern tools in urban planning.
Accra is growing very fast. In fact, demographically and economically, it has an impact in terms of mobility. From the studies we have conducted under Ghana Urban Mobility and Accessibility Project, we have seen that the number of trips per day will be multiplied by 2 by 2035. So there is a big challenge for Ghanaian authorities to manage that mobility growth. The thing is, how can we deal with those trips? The car-centric approach is not a solution, it's a dead end. There is a need to implement a multimodal system. So the challenge for Accra metropolitan area in the coming 10 years is to plan a new transport system with, as a backbone, a mass transit system. It could be bus rapid transit or railways that will help people to move, to commute to Accra city center. And public transport is not the only solution. We have to develop here some streets that will allow people to walk easily when they have some short distance trips to make. And for the moment in Accra, it's not yet easy to move by walking in the streets. Cycling is also important. In fact, you could, in 15 minutes, cycle 4 kilometers very easily in some cities. And you have now some African cities developing cycling policies also in order to solve mobility issues of people. And then, of course, the traffic should be managed in order to, let's say, to calm down the traffic, to reduce the pollution, to reduce the speed, and to facilitate the share of spaces between pedestrians and vehicles.
The preparation for tomorrow must start today. GUMAP has contributed its quota to laying a solid foundation towards a much-needed urban mobility vision and strategy for Accra. Beyond GUMAP, however, there is the need to continue tireless efforts towards strengthening the governance framework, which is required to fund and sustain the implementation of an urban mobility master plan and integrated multimodal action plan to improve urban mobility for Accra. The time to act is certainly now.